"You gonna blink, tough guy?" The massive man growled, jabbing a thick tattooed finger toward the guard's face. The crowd around them tensed, but the soldier didn't move. He didn't flinch. 2 seconds later, the giant was on the ground, arms twisted, pride shattered, and the air knocked out of his lungs. The plaza outside the Tomb of the Unknowns was meant to be silent, sacred. Even the breeze seemed to tiptoe across the pavement, out of respect. A line of tourists stood behind the ceremonial rope, heads bowed or cameras quietly raised, observing the changing of the guard. Everything about the moment breathed reverence, except for one man. Chad was the kind of guy you couldn't ignore, even if you tried. Towering with bulging muscles and loud confidence, he wore a ripped tank top, heavy gold bracelets, and a smugness carved deep into every word he spoke. He didn't whisper, didn't observe. He laughed, loud, disrespectful, crude. "Come on," he barked to his friends, who hung back awkwardly. "Let's see what this statue does when you poke him." He flexed a bicep, winked, and stomped across the invisible boundary toward the guard. The man in uniform stood tall, clean, pressed, his rifle held with reverent precision, eyes forward like carved granite. But Chad wasn't impressed. "You think you're tough?" he mocked, tapping the guard's rifle with a knuckle. "Bet you've never seen a real fight." The moment was electric. Every eye was glued to the scene. Tension thickened the air like a thunderstorm waiting to explode. And then, it did. In one blur of motion, the guard shifted his stance, stepped forward, and executed a single trained maneuver that sent Chad's massive body crashing to the pavement. The crowd gasped. Phones flew up. Chad clutched his ribs, stunned, humiliated, blinking up at the sky. The guard returned to position without a word, unmoved, unshaken. Chad's friends rushed to help him up, but even they hesitated. Something had shifted. "You okay, man?" one muttered, half horrified. Chad didn't answer. The smirk was gone. The confidence was gone. He looked at the guard like he was seeing him for the first time, not as a target, but as a mystery. A security officer approached calmly. "Sir, the tomb is a place of honor. That guard is not here for show. He's here to protect something bigger than any of us." Chad grunted. "He attacked me." The officer raised an eyebrow. "He warned you by his silence. You crossed the line. That man's not just a ceremonial guard. He served 2 tours overseas, Bronze Star, lost 3 men under his command. He volunteered for this duty, not because it's easy, but because he believes in honoring the fallen." The words hit harder than the takedown. Chad stood, slower now. He looked around. The crowd wasn't cheering. No one was clapping. But the silence was the loudest lesson he'd ever heard. He left without another word. That night, the video went viral, but not for the reasons Chad might have expected. The comments weren't mocking the guard or laughing at the violence. They were filled with reverence for the man who never spoke a word. Discipline is louder than arrogance. This wasn't a fight. This was a lesson. He didn't break protocol. He embodied it. The next morning, Chad returned. No cameras, no tank top. He wore a plain hoodie, hands in his pockets, eyes low. In his hand, a single folded letter and a small white flower. He didn't try to cross the line again. He stood behind the rope, just watching. The tomb guard marched in silence, rifle clicking in rhythm, face unreadable. Chad whispered something no one else could hear, then placed the flower at the edge of the path and walked away. He didn't post about it. He didn't tell his friends. But those who knew him noticed something had shifted. His gym selfies stopped. His mockery stopped. He volunteered at a local shelter a few weeks later. When asked why, he only said, "Met someone who reminded me what strength really looks like." And that's the power of quiet dignity. In a world obsessed with shouting, sometimes the strongest voice is the one that never raises itself. If this story touched you, take a moment to reflect on what real strength means. Subscribe for more true stories of honor, humility, and unexpected transformation. And let us know in the comments, what does quiet strength look like where you live? Thumbnail: a massive, muscular man with tattoos and a tank top jabbing his finger at a stoic ceremonial tomb guard. The guard, in crisp, formal uniform and sunglasses, holds a rifle calmly but firmly. The moment is frozen just before impact, highlighting the finger touching the rifle. In the background, a stunned crowd watches from behind a rope barrier. Early morning light casts long shadows, adding cinematic tension. Emotions, intimidation, tension, discipline, and underlying respect. Ultra-detailed, dramatic lighting. Emotional realism.